and it's May 26, 2020. Here's your morning market update. So let's discuss the Philippine market. Precisely what happened with Jollibee's 10% down day and what's happening to other names going down 11% to the Pacific, 31 pesos. We've got Macro Asia 7% down. You've got EEI 9% down. You've got Mega Wide new lows. You've got Security Bank new lows. So there's a ton of new lows for the day. I think there's about 8 companies that fell into a 52-week new low. This means that whatever their price was during the PSEI 4,000 index, even with your index PSEI at 5.5, there are a couple of names that have already pierced their breakdown new lows, and they've already been going new lows even when the entire market hasn't. Now, how do you define a new low? A new low is just a 52-week new low. So this one, we've got about 10 52-week new lows. Market value is 4.8 billion, so that's a relatively strong selling pressure. You've got 156 decliners and only 37 advancers. In your entire market, the biggest weighting drop is Jollibee with a down 10%. Most actively traded Jollibee, 571 million pesos. Let's explain why Jollibee is falling. So a day ago, you can see this news website, billionario.com, May 24. So 2 days ago, there's this very huge headline saying that there's 4 billion pesos losses in about 2 years, where Tan Kakyong of Jollibee is still looking for joy between the Jollibee Cargill's chicken factory bust. So you could recall that 2 years ago, Cargill earmarked about 12.5 billion pesos expanding in the Philippines for the which is a major supplier of chicken for the country's fast food giant Jollibee Chicken Joy. They actually invested about 800 million pesos, and last year, Cargill put up 2 plants in the Philippines. 2 years ago, they had the first animal premix plant in the country in Bulacan, and they are the largest country's processing plant in Batangas, a partnership with Jollibee Foods Corporation. Their assets amounted to 10 billion pesos as of 2017, a 4-fold increase over the last decade. Now, in this news report of Billionario 2 days ago, they're saying that the company wherein Cargill formed the 30/70 joint poultry venture in 2017 was supposed to be a vertical integration for Jollibee, because Jollibee naturally needs supplies of chicken, wherein Cargill is as a meat production plant is also in its best interest. So they actually started with the 867 million pesos processing plant. This was about 2017. And then they expanded it as of this news to about 12.5 billion in 2018. So according to this news, Chicken Joy has already loaned about 4 billion pesos in liabilities, wherein a huge chunk was for these expansion of poultry processing plant. Now, Jollibee's unrecognized equity share in losses are close to 1 billion pesos in 2018. So in its first full year operations alone, Jollibee admitted that it was carrying nearly 4 times the value of its interest in this C-Joy, which is that partnership. So a lot of people are asking whether the losses would continue. Now, I've also been trying to read up on this processing. There's this news article from ABS-CBN a month ago. So this was April 29, 2020. The title is Chicken Joy Supplier Cargill Shifts to Retail as the Pandemic Chokes the Restaurant Demand. In this Zoom video, you could see that there is an oversupply of poultry products, pushing farm gate prices to fall to as low as 30 to 70 pesos per kilo. Now, the drastic drop in demand in quick service restaurants, the halting of operations, the very minimal coming back online is the reason why there's a drop. Now, they've also gone to retail spaces. They had to be creative. They served new groceries due to the COVID situation. Now, if you try to listen to this, let's try to listen a few things, no?
Well,
let's watch.
As you probably read in the news, recently we have heard from the IATF, from the Department of Agriculture, that the inventory for poultry is at over 60 days as we speak. it does speak actually to an extent of the oversupply. The counterpart figure in January 2019 was at about 190,000 tons versus that 400,000 tons today. And we see this reflected in prices of poultry products. From the cost of production for live poultry at market is about 7 pesos. Right? We saw that in the year the market price fall down to 30. Right? Just through someone past couple weeks, right? But it's still below that cost of production, causing some concern across the entire industry. Right? And we don't see, at least in the short term, this issue about demand improving.
Let's look at demand. Where is that coming from? Okay, so what we heard from the Chicken Joy Cargo Philippines, that's the Chicken Joy supplier. What you're listening into is that there's a 70 pesos production cost for chicken. Of course, when you go to SNR or to Landers, you gotta buy chicken at 220 pesos, so you know a bit about the margin. He mentioned about the oversupply of chickens, and then they're expecting that it's causing concern, given that Jollibee is not just selling Chicken Joy, it actually owns a portion, it's a 30-70 joint venture, 30% to Jollibee on that Cargill. So I think that drop today of 10% is a cause of concern. So you can recall that right now, I don't think that I don't know how much losses Jollibee will incur. This seems to be speculation in the part of Billionario on how much losses it is, but it actually points you to the root of the problem, which is the problem really is the lack of demand. So you've got an oversupply of the meat, in this case chicken. So they're saying that the production inventory is about 90 days. So you've got a lot of chickens. There's an oversupply. They are being creative. They're processing it, selling it into grocery supermarkets. But if the general consumption of the public is very few, the farm gate prices can fall from below their production cost. So it is a cause of concern. And when you look at the charts of Jollibee, this news actually made a breakdown with volume. So the prices fell, the volume increased. People are actually worried about this news on the oversupply of chicken happening in the Philippines because of this pandemic. This news is also sharing that indirectly, the restaurant's food space is actually having lower chicken bought. Therefore, if you think about it, if Jollibee has pain, the pain is translating to the other restaurant segments as well, even if they didn't fall with volume. So you could see that Max's continued declining, no volume, but of course the news is specifically targeted to Jollibee. But you could see that the other restaurant segments in the Philippines are falling alongside. So Shakey's Pizza is falling down. You've got Max's restaurant also falling down, particularly maybe because they're also talking about the demand in the restaurant in general. Now, how will Jollibee recover from this? Okay, from a chart perspective, you could see that Jollibee will have support here at about 110. Between 108 to 112, you've got support. And then your current resistance is now residing here at 133. Now, can it fall to 100 pesos owing to this news on the production oversupply? That's also possible. So we'll see whether are we gonna retest or is this a higher low? Now let's take a look about the new lows as well. So we're seeing a lot of new lows, particularly in the MSCI Deletion. Now, you know that Security Bank was deleted from our MSCI Philippine Index. The replacement is pure gold being added. And so you could see that this volume is increasing and the prices have been falling since May 13. This gap down happened, 90, now it's 77, approximately 23% down already, Security Bank, ever since the news. Now, this is already a 52-week new low, as you could see.
The general decline of Security Bank is also a problem, not just because it's an MSCI deletion, but it's carrying for all the banks. You could see that BDO has been falling. And I think the drop on BDO is a lot of Fitch ratings have been giving negative ratings to the banks because of the pandemic. So the pandemic victims have been the financials, with a lot of people questioning how much exposure it is and how much non-provisional losses there could be. So while BDO hasn't gone to new lows, its previous low was 75. And with BDO, really, it's been selling down ever since it's broke this 100 peso mark. It's been falling down about 15% so far ever since. So is it possible for Jollibee to fall 20% down after breaking 130? Estimating a drop, we'll see, but it looks like a 20% drop is not out of the question here. And so a 20% drop could take it somewhere here at 105 or between 110 to 100. So this isn't sure, pero the news is quite bad for the sector and the volume is very, very bad. Should it go up, maybe 5% higher, you could still see tremendous selling and selling pressure for Jollibee. What do you do if you have positions here at 138, 140? There's two choices. You either sell and buy when you see a signal again, or you wait for other selling opportunities if there are rallies that you could sell into. Those are possible things. Now, take a look at all the negative news. No, all of these are new lows. You've got Macro Asia falling down, the delay in Sangli Airport, the deletion on your MSCI is truly weighing down. So can it go further new lows? The prior low was 342. We have an entire week to go. That's until May 29. You've got these, so Cebu Pacific is now already at a 52-week new low. We're talking about that the weakest link in the Philippine market is your airlines, and it's showing across the board. Cebu Pacific is falling 52-week new lows. This is lower than your PSEI 4,000. So as you could see, the market is showing that the sectors that are the most hit can go new lows, and Cebu Pacific, Macro Asia is really one of the weakest in the sector. Take a look at these names. Construction is going new lows, 52-week new lows. EEI Corporation going down. Construction is something that the market sees in a terrible situation. MWIDE also 52-week new lows. A lot of construction has probably halted, or actually the GCQ, the modified quarantine, has already allowed construction to start. So some of the construction of EEI and MWIDE has started, but a lot of people are concerned that there will be less construction projects going forward unless the government truly ramps up their PPP infrastructure. So as you could see, notwithstanding the MWIDE being deleted on your MSCI, further pain and with a lot of losses here, the market is forward-looking, seeing that construction companies in general are weak. To add on to the burden, East West is also now hitting a 52-week new low. East West is now 638. So a couple of days ago, we were already saying that East West might go new lows, given that East West has also been deleted in your MSCI. So a lot of your big drops coming from MSCI deletion has resulted to new lows, 52-week new lows, while your index is still at 55. It goes to show that with the banks bleeding, restaurants, you've got airlines, construction dragging the market downwards. This index right now is at the brink of a potential breakdown, with only a few companies carrying it forward up. The only few gainers in the market were Pure Gold and Globe. Pure Gold, of course, got added in your index. That's why it's still up at 46.50. Today is the last day for Mrs. G's dividend, so it's an X date. So actually, the drop of Mrs. G can be related to the 6 centavo cash dividend that the company has said that it will give. So this is an X date, meaning if you are buying Mrs. G today until next week, next 2 days, you don't have that 6 centavo dividend. That's all that it is. Okay, Globe has been strong. Generally speaking, so there are very few companies in the Philippine market that is holding strong. Now, take a look as well. There's a lot of bad things happening on the other country, which is Hong Kong. Hong Kong police is firing tear gas as the protesters decry the China security law plan. So we're seeing Hang Seng Index fall about 6% the last few days. These few days, it's a recovery. So you could see that the general sentiment is downwards. If Hang Seng Index drops to about 21,000, that would be a 10% drop, which could carry, and that negative news in the US-China tension with the delisting of Chinese issues next week in the Senate of US could also be another negative headline, not just for Chinese issues, but it could translate into our market as well. So as you can see, these negative headlines are showing potential bearishness. You could see actually that a double short in the Hong Kong index, which is this one. So we're seeing a very strong move. Take a look. So there was a gap up, and these looks to be an entry point for those who are trying to short the Hang Seng Index for a potential further downside for Hong Kong. So there's a lot of protests, not just due to the coronavirus, but the Beijing planned national security law, which further is adding to fears and weighing down on the market. So that's really your best, your top news for the Philippine market. You've got a lot of negative moves. You've got further downside to go. So here are your, just to recap, here are your majority losers. You've got all the index, all of our shares falling down with a huge decline. Jollibee, Security Bank leading the downside, but notwithstanding, almost all of the other names are falling. Let's take a look. DMC, BDO, Ayala Lands, Semirara, MPI. So when you look at the week, take a look at the statistics, analytics. Even if you just go through your PSEI, Philippine Stock Index, on the average percent-to-date change, these are your year-to-date losses. Security Bank is already down 60%, GDCap down 55%, Bloomberry down 50%, your BDO and Metro Bank 50% down, 45% down, with a lot of names actually down big and only a few winners. The winners meaning PLDT, Pure Gold, Globe, with only 3 gainers and a lot negative. You've got the index down 30%. The market will continue to just safely stay in cash until we see bargain hunting or at least the victims stopping the decline. So it's really a bad, it's still bad in the Philippines. We don't see a lot of buying opportunities yet. Can Jollibee fall further? I think the question has to do with whether the oversupply, it's really a function of oversupply and the quick service restaurants. Now that it's reopened, the shops are, of course, trying their best to pick up those delivery sales, and a lot of people buying those chicken on your supermarket. We'll see whether that production oversupply can hopefully change in the next few months. So have we seen the worst? It looks like the Philippine market wants to go further down. So I don't know if this is going to fall, but with the statistics, it looks like we will have more weakness to go. Okay, so thank you very much. I hope that this update helps you learn what the market is doing, and see you again tomorrow. Thank you. Bye-bye.